Remember the Golf GTI Clubsport, the most powerful version of the Golf GTI ever? This is the new, even more powerful version. It's called the VW Golf GTI Clubsport S, and there's a bit more at play here than just an extra consonant. Limited to 400 cars worldwide, the Clubsport S wants the GTI's 2.0-liter turbos power up to 306 bhp, even more than the odd Golf R, carries some substantial chassis tweaks, loses a fair bit of weight, some of it by chucking away the rear seats, and has recently garnered a coveted lap record for a front-wheel drive production car at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Which, appropriately enough, is where we've tested it. So there's more to the Clubsport S than wall back seats and a few damper tweaks. The power hike, from 261 bhp in the Clubsport to 306 bhp in the Clubsport S, comes largely from a larger, freer-breathing exhaust system. For the first time on a modern VW performance car, the speed limiter's been removed, allowing the S to hit 165 miles per hour flat out, a figure that would be higher were it not for that big rear spoiler. All that power flows through the regular GTI's manual gearbox rather than the DSG Auto, since the twin clutch box's extra weight would have negated its quicker shifts. Aside from losing the rear seats, some of the sound-deadening material has also been deleted, as has the variable height boot floor, and an aluminium front subframe has been fitted. Net result is a 1,360 kg curb weight. The tech spec of the VW Golf GTI Clubsport S. Unusually for a hot hatch, there's significant downforce too. Those flared nostrils and that spoiler aren't for show, transforming the standard Golf GTI's 60 kg of aerodynamic lift at top speed, not unusual for a car of this type, to a total of 125 kg of downforce, 17 kg of which is concentrated over the rear axle. There's resultant drag, of course, down the Nordschleife's enormous Dottinger straight. The Clubsport's noticeably slower than its rivals, VW says, but it claws the time back in the corners. The suspensions come in for a detailed rejig, with far more negative camber at the front courtesy of brand new, and very expensive to manufacture, subframe knuckles, with the aim of making the car as stable as possible when braking and turning at the same time, something drivers have to do quite a lot of on the Nordschleife. There's been much electronic calibration tweakery, too. Setting the ring record, 7 meters 49.2 seconds, a full 1.4 seconds quicker than the previous FWD champ, Honda's Civic Type R, simply wouldn't be possible with passive dampers. The electronically controlled shocks play a huge role in helping the Clubsport monster the track's curbs, jumps and cambers. The comfort mode in the car's driving profiles is identical to the damper settings used for the Nürburgring record lap. The brakes have also been modified, with heat-resistant pads and lighter aluminium brake pots, said to lend the driver's foot more precise control. And last but not least, a great deal of credit for the car's abilities also goes to its super sticky Michelin Pilot Cup tires, especially developed for the Clubsport, and later borrowed by Porsche to use as the recommended front boots on the 997 GT3, believe it or not. Soft enough to sink a thumbnail into, they're worth as much as 5 seconds a lap in the dry, we're told, although they're quite difficult in the wet. How do all those changes feel on track? One of the impressive things about the Clubsport S is that despite its lap-time-busting agility, it's not an intimidating car to drive. Rather than handling on a knife edge, it's very neutral, with a safe bias towards reassuring, but not frustrating, understeer when driven below 10/10ths, and incredible stability under hard braking. Perhaps the car's most remarkable facet is the way its dampers handle bumps. It's possible to take enormous liberties with the Nordschleife's curbs. Benny Luchter, the seriously handy driver who set the car's record braking time, not just once but on 3 separate laps, incidentally, says he's only ever driven 3 cars that can take the same curb-hopping lines a Clubsport S can, and they're endurance racers with full race suspension. On the way out of corners, the Clubsport S summons scarcely credible traction for a front-drive car. The electronically controlled mechanical limited slip differential, the same unit fitted to the regular Golf GTI as part of the optional performance pack, hauls the car up to speed and actively tightens its line, its effect felt all the more keenly through the new front suspension geometry. 306 bhp through one axle? No problem. In the dry, at least. Steering, handling. The steering feels sharper, keener than a regular GTI's, largely as a result of the altered front toe and camber angles, though thankfully retains the confidence-inspiring linearity of the standard car's variable rate steering rack. Whether it'll feel quite so manageable away from the racetrack on a typically bumpy, bulbous British B road is a question we'll hopefully get to answer in the future. You can feel the reduced curb weight in the way the car's responses, and hear it in the unfiltered sound of gravel spattering the rear arches and various pyrotechnic noises coming from the larger, throttled exhaust system. It's almost, but not quite, as vocal as a Renault Sport Megane. The RS Megane, and the Civic Type R for that matter, feel more raw, less polished than the Clubsport S, and some might argue more engaging as a result, but they're nowhere near as easy to drive quickly. Nor, as it turns out, as quick against the stopwatch. Verdict: VW GTI Clubsport S. The Clubsport S is a deeply impressive car, all the more so because it's achieved its speed through painstakingly developed handling finesse rather than horsepower. It's a good friend on track, as rewarding to drive for a complete novice as it is for an experienced hand like Luther, and almost certainly an enormously engaging road car. Were it not for some missing seats, it would be a very usable one, too. Of the 400 Clubsport S cars to be built, 150 are bound for the UK, making Bloody the S's biggest market when deliveries start in autumn 2016. Assuming they can get their hands on one, buyers can pick from red, white or black. Prices are yet to be confirmed, but on the continent it'll be around the €40k mark. From the driver's seat, that sounds entirely reasonable.